Okay, hello and welcome to the Freedom Hustles podcast. This is episode 38. My name's Andy Lehman from Freedom Skills Academy, and I am with...
Hello. Yes, good evening. John Banks. Actually, we should probably say also from Freedom Skills Academy now, should we?
Yep.
No harm in saying that now. So Andy and I have kind of joined up with that sort of venture. I'm still running Side Income Band as well, but it's kind of all under one kind of hat now. So the podcast is now from the Freedom Skills Academy. And welcome.
That's right, yeah. We've been putting our heads together and planning quite a bit over the last few months, which brings us nicely into the
brilliant
crowbar.
Accidental segue, right?
Yeah, we're talking today. Well, what are we talking about today then, John?
So we're talking about exactly what that sort of thing. So things like mastermind groups, partnerships, accountability, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, because the other day we were discussing something, and basically the two of us working together allowed us ideas to bounce off each other, and then we came up with a new concept which we probably wouldn't have got working on our own. So the whole idea of the mastermind is, I remember reading sort of a description. I mean, I know there's only two of us, so we're not like 10 of us sat around a table, but they were saying that the human mind, if you think about the human mind, is like a single cell, but put two and put more together, it becomes like a battery. So you've got more power, more charge. And I quite like that because you're all connected to the same sort of thought, and you're all thinking, and just ideas pop out, which you probably won't have on your own.
Yeah, no, I agree completely. Definitely. I mean, some of the stuff that we've kind of come up with, and I probably a lot of people can relate to this. You definitely work better, I think. I mean, humans are meant to be with other humans, aren't they? We're meant to kind of, communicate and talk and, be in groups and stuff like that. And, sort of singling yourself out and working solely on your own on stuff is probably not necessarily a good idea. So, and I think, certainly from my own experience and yours, and a lot of stuff that we've worked on in the past and hopefully in the future, has come about things like just having these chats. And, we've mentioned before, we always have at least a once a week meet up, of some degree, whether it's, half hour just before we go on air, or maybe it's another planned, half hour or an hour one evening. And it is just a sort of touch base, and we've got like little action trackers and things that we go through to do all our sort of tasks and stuff. But then after that, we will often just have a little chat about stuff. And I think sometimes the ideas and some of the best ideas can come about without really even sort of almost by accident, really. And they don't. There was no kind of format to the talk. There's no kind of structure to it. It doesn't necessarily even begin as a discussion that has a real important or real clear end goal. But we'd often just chat, and then all of a sudden it will go out, and then one of us will say something, or the other one will say something, and then all of a sudden this whole new concept's been built. And so from just what would be a normal kind of general chat could end up into creating, and then all of a sudden we get to work, we put actions down, and and this, that, and the other. It can often, it's that sort of ripple, isn't it? Like you mentioned, the sort of snowball effect.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, like you say, it even if you're not talking particularly work, having these conversations are important because you don't become isolated mentally. You are chatting with someone, you'll start talking about things, and then it will just eventually lead into sort of discussions of ideas. Because I mean, we can have a meetup and we may not even necessarily want to talk about, because we have, like you say, we've got these action trackers, we've got lists that we need to work through, and we have these ideas. We may not even plan to talk about that. We might even just talk about something we've seen on the internet, another course or something else, and try that. And then it all sorts of snowballs into further ideas, or, we sort of, should we look at this, or should we, like, have you seen this? And then it all sort of just feeds off itself. And that in itself is quite powerful, because as you say, you're not actually trying to strain your brain. You're just talking, and then things like you say just seem to fly out the back, out of by accident. Great ideas. I mean, we were talking about something the other day, and I wrote it down. It came up with a sort of a cool idea, which is going to go on our list, and it's something to think about. But that came about just by talking about ideas, and you think this will work. Shall we try this? And it's something that I think is quite good.
I think as well, another important point to stress when you're kind of having these conversations about, it used to be called brainstorming, but I don't know if that is the term now. But anyway,
I think they changed that because of a lot of autistic people who take things literally, got a bit of a panic on.
I know. I apologise if I don't know. I don't know what the new correct term is.
That's what I've heard. I'm not saying it's true, but I know sometimes you have to be careful with what you say because some people go,
Yeah. So for that kind of getting together and the sort of gathering of minds and bouncing ideas off each other, and the one thing is, and which we were kind of all taught, is that no idea is a bad idea, and no thought or anything. Don't just dismiss everything or anything quickly, because it might be that, let's say you have a thought about something and I got an idea for a product. How about we do this? It might be completely a non-starter, as in no way on earth are we going to do that product. However, you could say, well, hang on a minute, we're not going to do that, but what about just that section of it? All of a sudden, and I don't know, that little section could be built into a short PDF, which could be used as a brilliant lead magnet. So all of a sudden, you've gone from something which there's no chance that you're going to do whatsoever. It's going to take far too much time, far too much money. We haven't got the resources to do it, and it's not going to be worth it. But that little bit in what we talked about maybe doing in video 5, that could be an easy short PDF, which we could knock up in an afternoon, and we could use it as a giveaway. So what start is as something that was, like you say, no chance, could actually become, just through having a chat about it, which on your own, you may have either completely dismissed or gone about it the total wrong way, which is why I say about, having these chats, and even if it's more than two of you, I mean, most of the time we just chat two of us, but I've got a group on Facebook, which I'm happy to link in the comments, and there's you're in it. We often we talk in there, and we don't want negativity. We don't want people just to bash stuff down and any of that. Then it's not the group for you. Fine, see you later. But it's all about encouragement. It's all about being positive, and seeing things from other people's point of view, isn't it? Sometimes,
which is important, because you often overlook things. Because when you are, as you said, if you're sat at home with your notepad going through ideas, you can be writing down that's brilliant and that one's rubbish, and you cross that one out. But someone else might come along and actually look and say, well, actually, no, you're missing a trick there, because 25% of 34-year-old males or something do that. But just because you're a 47-year-old male, you probably don't know that, or something else. Or they could turn and say, that one there that you say is brilliant might not actually work. However, the system that you're going to implement could actually be used elsewhere.
Yeah.
But because you're doing everything on your own and going through ideas, I mean, going through ideas, creating a list of ideas and thinking them through is brilliant. But it's always, I would say it's very handy. It's a good idea to bounce it off other people. But as we've talked about in previous podcasts, it's always worth bouncing them off the right people. And that doesn't mean that you want to have an echo chamber of people who are going to keep saying yes, 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 yes. You don't want. No, we're talking about people who have got the experience, people who have got in the same sort of mindset, people who are interested in because majority of people often try and ask for advice from the wrong people. You don't want that. Mastermind is working with people who are of a similar wavelength.
Doers.
Who have your sort of, say, your best interests at heart. They have your, they're interested in what you're doing. They're doing the same thing, so then they can actually see things from the sort of same angle, but also from a different angle. They're not just your parents or your friends who've never done anything. It's a mastermind is a select group of people, be like me and you. You see, we could and partnered up with somebody else, someone we know closer, or somebody who is we spend more time with. But we actually know that we've been around for years discussing internet marketing, everything. Right. Okay. So, my internet dropped out there quickly. So where was I? I was just saying, basically, like you and I, we've been around together. We know what we are sort of doing. We're in the same industry. We have the same sort of goals, and so it makes sense for us to partner up. And we basically talk about the stuff because it's what we do. It's what we know, and we bounce off each other. Talking to the wrong people is never a good idea. And this also brings us around to not just being a mastermind as in a great way to develop ideas, bounce off each other. There's also the accountability aspect of sort of partnering up, as well as it preventing you becoming sort of self-isolated and overwhelmed working on yourself. You have a complementary partner who can do certain tasks while you do other tasks, which basically means that you never want to let the other person down. It's easy to let yourself down. But it's not easy to let somebody else down. So you're both trying to deliver results. So you're both sort of keep in harmony. At the same time, you also get twice as much done because while you're building on the website, I'm writing the sales letter, or vice versa. Yeah. You get a job done a lot quicker. And when you start seeing things taking shape, it's a lot more mentally positive. It's a lot more reassuring in the mind than trying to do everything yourself.
Yeah, definitely. I think another thing I just want to touch on is like you just mentioned then about doing different stuff. Nobody knows everything, do they? And that's the whole, another great thing about having mastermind groups and, mixing with other people, sort of like-minded individuals, is you will be able to get some help, and you will be able to get some advice, and quite often if you're in, there are mastermind groups, we should say before we sort of carry on, there are mastermind groups where you can pay to go into, like big money. I know some marketers that charge, I think, tens of thousands of dollars.
I've seen 10 grand as a normal figure
to join these groups. Obviously, and in there you've got these top, guys and girls and marketers and stuff. And so, that's one scale of it. But we've kind of, we're talking a bit more, scaled down than perhaps within your circles, or people you've met online, or people you've done business with, or whatever. But anyway, so, and like you say, not everyone knows everything. So you end up coming across stuff that you would never have thought of, or coming across ideas that you wouldn't have perhaps thought of seen it that way. And a classic example of this is I was listening to a podcast this afternoon, and funny enough, it was there was a guy who was running an Etsy store, and he was doing all right. He was making a few sales here and there. And the podcast he was on, the woman that was talking to him, she was saying, how do you go about doing your SEO? For those of you who don't know, that's the sort of search engine optimization. So how are your listings set up so their best chance of them being discovered, and i.e. someone going to buy? And what he said was, which is a very, very common approach, and one that, is not even necessarily that bad. And what he said was, I write my descriptions and everything as if I am going to go and buy, if I'm going to go and buy it. So what would I do if I'm going to go and buy this? And he said, and that's how I write out all my descriptions and titles and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, yeah, okay, that's great. That's not a bad way of starting. But then she said, well, you must understand that the way you search for stuff is probably only a tiny, tiny fraction of the way the general population and other people search for stuff, which you don't think of because you haven't, it's not in your head. You would never type in a specific search term that you wouldn't type in. So therefore, why would you think like that? So, and then she said, well, look, this is another way of doing it. And she told him about taking these listings, duplicating them, changing the images slightly. It's the same product, but just changing the images slightly, and then changing the description, but do it differently. And then you get, we've often talked about testing before, and that's a massive part. And then, so then you can do a test and you can run it over 3 months, do that with your top 5 sellers, make multiple listings of each one, and then compare. And, chances are that what you think may not be always be the right answer. Do you know what I mean?
That's quite, yeah, that's a brilliant example of working with a mastermind group and how you can, because there's something I was thinking about, like I was on about earlier, getting your wrong advice from wrong people. And that is, it's common known that if you want to be successful, then you'll go and find people who are successful in that field, or at least are successful in similar fields,
Yeah.
because not only have they walked, they've walked, they taught the walk, whatever they call it, and they've had experience, but they will also be able to offer solutions. Most people offer problems.
Yeah.
They see problems, whereas people who've been successful, who've done stuff, will see solutions. And as you say, you can learn from them. So if someone there talking about their search engine optimization are picking, they're writing out their descriptions on how they search for stuff,
Yeah.
are missing out on something where the person who gave them the advice is obviously been around in the industry for years. They picked that up and passed it over. You wouldn't get that from, the bloke down the pub necessarily.
No.
So being in a mastermind group, those ones who used to pay 10 grand are paying 10 grand to get access to not just information or ideas or companionship. They are paying 10 grand to basically work around people who can offer up solutions opposed to offer up problems.
Yeah.
So,
and it could lead to other stuff, couldn't it? The big masterminds, it could lead to joint ventures. It could lead to, using each other's email lists, or, it could lead to other, business opportunities. And, without that, it could be, opportunities that are missed.
well, that's like the old boys network, into which I suppose is another podcast for another day. But it's exactly that. Like you say, if you join a Facebook group, I mean, we're our mastermind group is just basically me and you. But like you say, we have a Facebook group. If you do join a Facebook group of lots of like-minded people, you make connections and networks. Then that opens up, as you say, to possible using email lists, or that you've got a product they might want to sell it on your behalf for a commission. You've already found, I mean, if you found somebody in there who's got a list of say 4,000 or 5,000 people and they want to sell your product, you've already found a market for it already, haven't you? Without having to run ads or do online SEO and all that kind of stuff. So definitely having mastermind groups and being parts of groups with people, like-minded people, is very powerful.
Yeah, definitely. I think though, I mean, yeah. So what kind of tips and advice can we give people that perhaps aren't in them? And because I guess it's quite easy to get, I'm not saying go on Facebook tonight and just join, 50 different groups.
No.
Because you're going to probably find a lot of them are going to be, maybe full of spam or not necessarily that great. I mean, if you know anyone in your sort of circles that understand kind of what it is you do, because we've talked about this before. I mean, I could talk about what we do. Probably 80% of my friends and family, and most of them will probably look at me very blankly and not really have a clue. And that's, no fault of anyone. That's just the way it is. It's quite a sort of niche thing. Not everyone's interested. Not everyone's keen to learn about this sort of stuff. So, why should anyone else who doesn't want to do it care, which is fine. So it's about finding the right people, like you mentioned then. It's really, really key to find the right people and to kind of mix and associate yourself with the right people. There's always them sayings that go around, don't they? If you want to be a millionaire and you're the sixth person and you hang around with 5 other millionaires, the chances are you'll make it eventually.
Yeah.
No, they'll know exactly what to do. They haven't just got there by fluke and chance. There's 5 of them. They know how to do it. They know the game. And you would learn from them and you would have ultimately make it.
That's like I say, they're the ones who offer up the solutions, where, like you say, if you hang around with 5 who aren't.
No, and it could be hard. So it depending on what you're doing, if your niche is, I don't know, if you want to become a successful sports trader, for example, you really want to try and get involved with, make some friends and that are already in the industry, and perhaps you would be able to get some tips and stuff like this. And it's like we do marketing and, making writing and blogging and courses and websites and that, if you get involved with people that have already done it, they know a bit about it, they're obviously going to be able to help you out. And, yeah, that's sort of, I think that's a real key aspect of it, isn't it? The
Yeah.
choosing your friends wisely and your
Mm.
associates wisely, really.
I think as a tip for me or from me is if you haven't, I mean, if you're doing this on your own and you want to do it on your own, that's fine. But I would consider having a partner, even if it's not actually a business partner, at least have an accountability partner.
Yeah.
But an accountability partner is better if it is a business partner, because technically an accountability partner hasn't got any reason to stay around. Whereas if you are both in the same business, then you have actually got an accountability partner. You've got somebody who, again, is your mastermind group. As you meet up, you bounce ideas around. And you also, there's the mental health side of it, which is basically you don't feel isolated and insular, stuck in your own little room, working on your own. Because we chat throughout the day regularly, don't we, through WhatsApp or something like that. And then we have these chats, bouncing ideas off each other. So I would definitely consider if you want to do something sort of internet marketing, even if it's like an Etsy store or something else, I would consider having someone to work with, because I think it halves the problem, but it also doubles the potential, the possibility, the speed, and it doubles the ideas, and you can bounce. Like I said, we've talked about bouncing ideas off. Someone can turn around and say, I don't necessarily think that's going to work. Whereas you could spend hours trying to bash something out and think it's going to work and then find out it doesn't. Whereas someone could have said, well, I could have told you that. But yeah, so for me, I would consider having a partner in one way or another.
That's a massive point. A good way to sort of end it, really. I mean, I'll just sort of further elaborate on that. And for example, work ethics, and you if you're doing stuff on your own, you might think that, there's no way I can do it in the week. I'll just do, 2 hours on a Saturday, and that's what I'm going to do. And then if you get up you meet up with someone who's doing a similar thing to you, and they're getting up an hour before every work day. They're going to work. They're getting up an hour before, doing an hour. Then they're coming home and they're doing 2 hours in the evening, and they're doing a couple of hours on the weekend. Now, we've talked about not comparing and people's different circumstances. That's absolutely right. But what if you thought that 2 hours on a Saturday was okay, when you have an accountability partner and they're doing like 12 hours, yet they've still got, all the other stuff that's got to go on. They've got a house to run, family and work and a day job, and you're only managing to do 2. You might kind of think, well, do you know what? Maybe I'm not really sort of pulling my weight, really. Perhaps I should do a little bit more. And it's totally your call. It's no one else. No one else, no one's going to blame you for doing less, or no one's going to pat you on the back for doing any more. But because you're kind of working sort of with someone else and you're both kind of on a similar journey, yet one guy's doing 12 hours a week and the other one's doing 2, you might kind of think, do you know what? I could probably find a few more hours here, perhaps, when I don't know, when I drop the kids at swimming or something like that, rather than sitting there and standing around doing nothing, I could probably do a little bit of social media in half an hour, or rather than, I could get up half an hour a week or half an hour before work every day, or do you know what I mean? And then again, these is all things that have happened because you've met someone else. Which is exactly what the whole point of this is.
Yeah, I mean, some people may think it sounds kind of negative, but in some ways it's kind of like, you're saving face in some ways. It's a good way of getting people to be motivated, because no one wants to see as the weakest link. And as you say, then also, but it's not just that, they'll also come along and say, well, if he can manage that, so can I. So it's also a positive motivational things. And it's also a case of, you can look and see, well, he's got all that amount done. I'm sure I can do more. And the more you get done, the quicker you get the result. So, but if you work on your own, it's very easy to fall back into that. I'll just do a couple of hours this weekend, or it doesn't matter. It's very. I mean, it's a bit like that old joke, isn't it? When you work, you should really work for yourself. You should see yourself as your, the most important person, the most important boss. But it's when you work for yourself, it's harder to get out of bed. But when you work for the bloke up the road, they're doing a job you don't enjoy, you get out of bed because you go to work at silly clock in the morning because you're afraid of getting sacked from the job you don't like.
Yeah.
So you basically you manage to get out and do the stuff you don't like for someone else, but when it's for yourself, you kind of push it behind. Oh, I'll be fine. I got my breakfast and sit in the garden. Well, you kind of very easily put yourself off. So at least when you've got like a partner, an accountability person, accountability buddy. Yeah, so having an accountability buddy basically helps keep you motivated, like having a boss, but without having the boss. You're actually doing something you enjoy, you're doing something that you want to do, and you're working for yourself, but at the same time, you don't want to let the other person down, and it is a way of keeping yourself motivated, most definitely. I think we wouldn't be where we are today with like things like the Freedom Skills Academy and the books I've written if it wasn't for the fact that we were working together.
Yeah, I agree.
It'd be very easy to slack. So yeah.
Okay, well, that's a good way to end. Apologies, there might have been a couple of little minor connection issues this evening, but
yeah, that's my internet. So sorry about
that. Anyway, that was episode 38. That was all about masterminds, groups, finding like-minded individuals, and accountability, and so on and so forth. So anyway, thanks very much. I've been John Banks, and I've been with
I'm Andy Lehman, and look forward to speaking to you again next week in episode 39, I think it is. Speak to you soon.
Thanks very much.